Hello, everybody. Welcome to Let's Talk Football. My name is John Halpin alongside Chris Palmer. Chris Palmer, how we doing, my brother?
Doing all right, man. What a week that we had when it comes to the week of football. This week was insane.
We have just crossed the threshold of the halfway point of the season. So may the second half of the season now begin.
Yeah, and electricity is short term for it.
Oh, and there's plenty of it. So let's get started with our Week 9 recap, starting with the Thursday night game this past week of the Philadelphia Eagles beating the Houston Texans. Philly just took care of business.
Philly looks damn near unbeatable. I can't think of a team right now that could possibly beat them, especially in the NFC. Moving on to another unbeaten week. Good for them. But Houston did give them a good fight in the first half.
Houston is a feisty team, but let's move on to another feisty team located in the NFC with the Atlanta Falcons, who probably the feistiest team there is, against the Los Angeles Chargers. But the Chargers coming away with a win 20-17. This was one of 4 games that ended in 20-17 this past weekend.
Yeah. Very exciting game to watch. Atlanta is starting to make some waves. You know, they're a young, very scrappy team. Give them a couple more years, and I think they're going to be something to watch.
Hey, you know who's a team that makes waves? The Dolphins.
Of course.
The Dolphins beating the Bears 35-32 in an absolute thrilling game to watch. This was one of those games where if you did not watch it, please check out the highlights. This was a great game to watch.
Oh, for sure. This was an unbelievable showing out of absolute talent on, believe it or not, both sides of the field. We've been talking about Chicago, how they have a mess of problems, which is still true, but this may go down as one of the best losses of the season. This was an unbelievable game for Chicago and for Miami both.
Oh, man. There are bright things in the future for both of these teams. So let's move on to the Cincinnati Bengals getting it done over Carolina, 42-21. Joe Mixon had a day.
Of course, Joe Mixon was damn near unbeatable, but again, you're going against the deflated Carolina Panthers. There's not much there. Cincinnati is ready to play in the AFC Championship. Carolina is ready for a lottery pick in the draft.
You know who might be picking lottery in the draft? The Green Bay Packers.
That's hard.
Losing to the Detroit Lions 15-9. Aaron Rodgers had 3 picks in this game, and they were all ugly.
Yeah, this game was on Green Bay's side was ugly. Shout out to Detroit. They said they had something to say to Aaron Rodgers from last year. So buckle up, Green Bay. This is something.
This is going to be a long season for the Green Bay Packers. But let's move on to another team where it's going to be long, where Aaron Rodgers' old friend Devontae Adams, he's going to have a long season with the Raiders. With the Raiders falling to Jacksonville 27-20. They had a 17-point lead and blew it. Sounds like the Ravens. But no, it's the Raiders, and the Raiders are not looking too good this season.
No, the Raiders are definitely a mess. It's really unfortunate that they just can't seem to get it together. You'd think that with Devontae Adams, you would start to play a little bit better. You were playing far worse than last year. But shout out to Jacksonville. You played a good, strong game. One side is going to have a very difficult time the second half of the season. The other one may start to win a couple games.
There's a lot of teams that are going to have a difficult season, and the Raiders are one of them. But you know who's another one? The Colts. The Colts falling to New England 26-3, and the Colts play the Raiders this upcoming week. So we're going to talk about what's going on with both of these teams. But, man, they both have long seasons ahead of them.
Oh, man, it seems like Indy just keeps shooting themselves in the foot. You said that we're going to talk about what's happening with them. Immediately after they lost this game, they fired their head coach, Frank Reich, and hired as an interim head coach Jeff Saturday, the Pro Bowl lineman from the Colts.
Yep. So we will talk more about that later on in this episode. But let's move on to what was probably the upset of the week. And now before we get into it, we have to say this. We will be the first to admit we were wrong about this game. We were flat out wrong.
Absolutely, we were wrong.
We said the Jets were not going to win this game. The Jets won against the Buffalo Bills 20-17. My God. Upset of the year?
Possibly upset of the year. Statement game. But at the cost of potentially Josh Allen on the side of Buffalo. For those who don't know, Josh Allen is being evaluated for a ligament injury in the elbow that is connected to nerve endings, which is a more common baseball injury that results in what's known as Tommy John surgery. If needed, he's being evaluated. He's on the day-to-day list. Hope for a recovery from Josh Allen. If he plays, he will definitely not be at 100%.
Yeah. At this point in time, we don't know we know he's injured. We don't know the extent of his injury, but we're going to discuss more of that later on in this episode because the Buffalo Bills play the Minnesota Vikings next week, and the Vikings are coming off a strong win over the Washington Commanders 20-17. Kirk Cousins getting it done.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins, he knows how to play at 1 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, he does.
Minnesota's a juggernaut this year, man. They're playing really, really well. I'm kind of excited to see what's coming out of Minnesota.
This is definitely going to be their hardest test of the year, but depending on how injured Josh Allen is, really depends on how this game is going to go. But we're going to talk more about that later on. But let's move on to Arizona, where the Cardinals took on the Seahawks, and the Geno Smith and the Seahawks getting it done 31-21. Is Kenneth Walker the offensive rookie of the year?
He should be. Without a doubt, he should be. On the flip side of that, Arizona, you are starting to produce a mess of problems on both sides of the ball. Shout out to Geno Smith, though. Complete revival of his career.
Comeback player of the year. 100%.
And it's not close.
Yep. So let's move on to a game that we talked about last week, which was the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and the Los Angeles Rams in what we also predicted was going to be an ugly game. But Brady, with another comeback from behind victory, with another fourth quarter comeback, ultimately won 16-13. Woo! There's something wrong with the Rams this year.
There's something wrong with the Rams. There's something wrong with the Bucs, but that's just a true to form, true to character play by Tom Brady. You fail to get a first down when you can win the game. You give it back to Tom Brady, he's gonna beat you for it. That's called being Brady, and that's exactly what happened.
Yeah, that's exactly what happened. Well, if the Rams got Brady, did the Titans get Mahomes? Because again, who loves to make comebacks? Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs. They love to make fourth quarter comebacks, and they ultimately did. The Kansas City Chiefs beating the Tennessee Titans 20-17, and my God, Mahomes threw for 68 times, 446 yards, and he ran for 63 yards. So Mahomes had over 500 total yards, and it was just an absolute historic game from Mahomes.
You see, Mahomes is a different level of athlete. He just is. He's just completely different. Getting into the 500 club last week, that definitely put them over the top, but that could be a detriment come later in the year if you keep trying to play to that full pace.
I know, yeah. That's they're definitely going to need to establish a few things, but it was a good win by them. But hey, let's not also discount the Titans. The Titans look good.
They finally found themselves.
The Titans look really good. They give a steady diet to King Henry, and he had another game where he had over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. So
he's going to get his. That's the way Derrick Henry works.
He's the king.
He is king. He is the best running back as of right now.
So with that being said, that was the slate of games for Sunday night. But let's move on to my Baltimore Ravens getting it done on Monday night against the Saints, 27-13. And we kind of figured this is what would happen.
Yeah, this was a real pretty cut and dry. Which team is better? Which team should win? And Baltimore came out with the W. Hats off to Baltimore. You got a win that you needed.
Absolutely.
You guys needed this win.
3-game winning streak. Woo!
Yeah. Now you can go into the next game with a little bit more confidence. Don't let it get to your head because
But we enter the bye week this week, and then after that we play the Carolina Panthers. So
All right, so you can let it marinate for a week.
we let it marinate, and we get our players healed up, specifically Mark Andrews and Gus Edwards, to the point where they are ready coming out of the bye week. So that was it for Week 9. So with that being said, we're going to move on to some Week 10 games that we think that are going to be pretty good this week, starting with the Minnesota Vikings and the Buffalo Bills. This is one of those games where you looked on the schedule, it's like, okay, this is a game that we're going to have to watch because there's so much importance to this game, but man, it's all contingent on the status of Josh Allen.
100%, I can't help but agree there. And the biggest elephant in the room is going to be, can the Bills succeed either with a hindered Josh Allen? Because if he plays, he was not going to have the long ball. That long ball is gone. He is not going to be able to throw it deep because of the injury that it is, or without Josh Allen. The Vikings are damn near 100% right now. They did not get hit very heavy with the injury bug, and they are rolling. So for Buffalo, there's more questions for them than I feel for Minnesota.
Mm-hmm. And I think what's going to hurt them ultimately, obviously, they're so Josh Allen dependent that if he's, say, 70% of what he normally is, he could still win you games, but he's not going to win as many games as he is at 100% because he's capable of running it excessively, but also throwing, to your point, that deep ball. That deep ball opens up so much in the passing game because you have to make sure, like, the safeties have to know. You need two safeties. You can't have single high safety coverage in the backfield because otherwise Stephon Diggs or Gabriel Davis, they're just going to get burned. We saw that earlier this year against the Steelers, where the Bills, they had Minka right as a single high safety and just got absolutely smoked because Josh Allen can pinpoint it deep down the field. What that does is that opens up the middle part of the field and the short game as well. So, but you take away that deep ball, teams press up a little bit to the line. They make it a little harder for Josh Allen. And they're going to play a lot of zone coverage. And the best way to beat zone coverage is by running the ball. And we know that the Bills do not run the ball particularly well. Mm-hmm. We saw it in that game against Green Bay. That was probably their best game of running the ball.
This season, correct.
This season so far, with the team that they have assembled. But they need more games like that. They need to feed Devin Singletary, and you also acquired Nakeem Hines from the Colts. So you need to have a steady diet of their touches. They need to have about 25 touches between the two of them.
Yes.
Because ultimately, there's an old cliche in football. A quarterback's best friend is a good running game.
Without a doubt. And honestly, when it comes to that Vikings defense, if you can't get a running game started, you are never going to get a pass off. Their coverage is too good. It doesn't matter how talented your receivers are. That secondary is locked. They are locked down secondary receivers, and then you have Harrison Smith in the backfield. So, if Josh Allen comes in and is hindered and you have to throw inside the numbers, Harrison Smith's going to be the first one to initiate contact all night.
Oh, yeah. He's still got it.
For sure.
He's still got it.
For sure. He is definitely on, the decline of his career. His prime is done. I think his prime was probably about 2 years ago.
Yeah.
As a player. But he is now that veteran mind that you want on your defense in that position specifically. He's like the aged Ed Reed or the aged Palomalu, where they're not going to be going for the full highlight reels, but he has that core belief that this defense is solid as a unit and we're going to win games as a unit.
Mm-hmm.
So Harrison Smith is probably the best leader that Vikings defense can have, and pushing them up the field to put pressure on the Bills and put it into a weaker running game, that's really not going to bode well for that Bills offense that relies so heavily on the deep ball specifically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and another player I want to shout out on the Vikings is obviously Harrison Smith, number 22, their safety. One of our favorite players that we love to watch. He's a great great football player. But another player who's actually having probably his best season, quietly having his best season of his career, is Zadarius Smith, who was formerly a Raven. Then he went to the Packers, and then this past season was from the Packers. Wanted to go to the Ravens, didn't get it done, and then ultimately went to the Vikings. Mm-hmm. And so Zadarius Smith, now on the Vikings, that's a great fit. Especially now, like they still have Danielle Hunter, and then you have Zadarius Smith on either side of the line. And you have Harrison Smith playing the deepest of the deep. And then you also have a veteran, Patrick Peterson, who's not going to beat you with his athleticism, but he's smart. He's one of the smartest cornerbacks there are in the league. And we saw, I think it was against the Cardinals, actually. He was a good matchup on DeAndre Hopkins because obviously we know D-Hop is the better athlete between the two of them. He's younger, he's faster, and he's DeAndre Hopkins. Right. But Patrick Peterson was still able to limit him, and he was still able to kind of not take him out of the game, but minimize his effect on the game. And I think if you put Patrick Peterson on Stephon Diggs, that's going to be the matchup to watch this game, because you have Patrick Peterson he's going to limit Stephon Diggs. I mean, you're not going to take away Stephon Diggs completely, but you limit him. You eliminate the deep ball. He gets a couple catches or something like that. I mean, obviously you can't stop him completely, or you put him on Gabe Davis. And Gabe Davis, if he's against an elite cornerback, he can be taken out of a game entirely.
Right.
So with that being said, if you put Patrick Peterson, okay, you suppress Stephon Diggs, or you put Patrick Peterson on Gabe Davis, you just take away that side of the field completely.
You see, to me, when it comes to that, you got to put your number one on your number one. You know, Patrick Peterson's got to go on Stephon Diggs. If you suppress him, that is all you're going to need to beat Buffalo.
Yeah.
Is putting him not even on the back burner. You just slow him down a little bit. You know, but you give him an inch, he's going to take the game from you. So, but Patrick Peterson is that guy who can do it positionally, where he won't beat you by speed. You can beat him on a route, but he's going to know where you're going at the end of that route, and he'll meet you there.
Mm-hmm.
And if he does not get his hands on the ball, his hands are on you, and you can't go anywhere else. He takes away the opportunity for a second chance. That's where the veteran mentality comes in. And then, even so, you have Harrison Smith playing the deepest of the deep. So once the ball is thrown, his reaction time is still unbelievable. So, and the physicality of the Vikings, where you have 3, 4, 5 helmets on one ball carrier, there's not going to be much for you to do. So that's going to force you to go outside the numbers, being with the Bills' offense.
Mm-hmm.
And taking away from Josh Allen's throwing ability is going to be a lot harder with their lack of run game.
Yeah. And the Vikings actually, they can do it both ways. Like we've been talking so far about the Bills' offense against the Vikings' defense. Now let's flip it real quick.
Okay.
The Vikings' offense matches up very well against that Bills' defense too.
Yes.
Obviously, that Bills' defense, we know they're full of stars. Trayman Edwards, Jordan Poyer,
Mm-hmm.
but he's playing. But Micah Hyde is out for the season.
Yes, he's out.
Tre'Davious White, I believe, is still out. I think Kyer Elam, he might be playing, but he might be playing injured. Okay. Their defensive line, Von Miller, he looks great. He looks
unstoppable.
He looks unstoppable for the Bills this year. He looks like he's playing, like, was he 33 this year? He looks like he's playing 23.
He looks like he's playing, like, again, he's another one who just keeps revamping his career wherever he goes. You know, goes to the Rams, wins a ring, goes to the Bills, and he's to me, he's in the argument for Defensive Player of the Year.
Mm-hmm.
So he's playing absolutely out of his mind. But that Vikings, I still like that Bills defense.
I like that Bills defense, but they're hurt.
Yes, they're hurt.
They're not 100%. And the thing is with the Vikings is that their offense they have a balanced offense. It's like, okay, so you take away Justin Jefferson. Mm-hmm. You still have a good receiving core, and now newly acquired TJ Hawkinson, KJ Osborne is another good one, and Adam Thielen. So like you take away one side of the field, you still have that other side of the field that's still open. and they can run it with Dalvin Cook and Madison as their running backs. So they have a very balanced offense that I believe that the Vikings could ultimately manipulate that Bills defense to be like, okay, look, we're going to either be pass the ball a little bit more so that it forces you to not blitz us so much. And when you're playing zone and trying to defend for the pass, that's when we run it.
Right.
And so the Vikings, surprisingly, if you look at it from a personnel standpoint, they match up very well against the Bills.
Mm-hmm.
But the Bills are still just as talented on both sides of the field. But these individual matchups are just going to be so key to look at. And just don't even – you can look at the quarterbacks. And obviously the quarterbacks are highly accentuated. But when you're looking at – if you're watching this game, look on the outsides. That's where this real the battle is going to lie. The outside of the line, the outside wide receiver to the outside cornerback, the safeties playing the deep ball. It's all going to be important because those matchups are going to be so crucial for this game. And
you see,
I like it.
That's a good place to look if you want to see a really good matchup. You look outside, you look at the wide receivers, and you look at the secondary. You know where I'm looking for this matchup, like the individual matchups that you talk about? I'm looking in the trenches. I'm looking straight at the offensive line versus that front seven on both sides of the ball.
Oh, yeah.
The team that gets the push is going to get the win. And just like you said, these teams stack up amazingly. You know, you have the Vikings run scheme with Dalvin Cook, so their zone run blocking is unbelievable. But you also have on the back end of that, you have Von Miller who can play contain he's the best in the league at playing defensive contain on zone runs.
And Kirk Cousins doesn't scramble.
No, Kirk Cousins is very comfortable in a collapsing pocket. But once you feel Von Miller once or twice, you're going to start scrambling a little bit. It's just the way it's going to be. This game is going to be very, very exciting. I am very excited to see this Bills defense really try to wreak havoc on this Vikings offense because they can, as hurt as they are, they can still cause a lot of turnovers.
Oh, absolutely.
You know, just like the Vikings, these are two of those what we like to call blue-collar teams where they just get after it and like to be physical on both sides of the ball. So this is not going to be one of those soft, like you're going to go to the floor, this type of games. It's going to be rough the entire way. You know, there's going to be rough fumbles, clean strips, the whole nine. It's going to be fun. I'm excited for this game.
Game of the week?
Potentially game of the week, for sure. I can see game of the week.
Okay. Hey,
but that's going to come down to how Josh Allen feels.
Yeah. It's all contingent on Josh Allen and his health going into this game. So, hey, the Vikings can win at 1 o'clock. This is a 1 o'clock game.
This could be a 1 o'clock win for them.
At first, I was thinking about it going into this. I'm like, no, the Bills are still probably going to win. But then I'm thinking I'm like, maybe did we just talk ourselves into the Vikings? I don't know. I'll have to see come when we make our picks. But
yeah, no, I don't know anymore.
It's
okay,
maybe. But let's move on to another game that we're actually really looking forward to this week, and that is actually the New Orleans Saints coming to play the Pittsburgh Steelers. Chris Palmer, I'll let you start off with this. How do you feel with the Steelers on their bye week, with the Saints come marching in?
You see, I can't help but hold some confidence going into this game. You know, as a Steelers fan, you always hope that the problems are fixed during any type of break, whether it be a bye week, the off season, what have you. The big thing that still sits with me is that we did not replace Matt Canada before the trade deadline. It didn't happen. So now that's something that we as Steelers fans have to eat. That is like a majority consensus with a lot of Steelers fans, where Matt Canada is a big root of the problem with his play calling. Mike Tomlin and the Rooney family, of course, they do not get rid of coaches until their contract is up. If you want to be a career coach, you go to Pittsburgh. It's just what it is. I like where we're headed as a young offense, I'm prepared to watch us lose more games. I really am. I'm prepared to watch us lose more games. Would I like to see it? No, of course. This game, I feel, is going to be a good game out of the bye week to try and get a little bit of momentum under our belt, get a good win, play a hard game, establish a strong run game. We have not really focused on a 100% Najee Harris or having Jalen Warren. I saw something the other day when it comes to carries for yards. Mm-hmm. Jalen Warren has almost 2 yards per carry more per attempt than Najee Harris this year. Right now, Najee Harris has about 3.9 yards per attempt, yards per carry. Mm-hmm. Jalen Warren has 5.6.
So he's a scrappy guy. He reminds me of Austin Eckler.
Yes,
and he also wears number 30. But he is, again, one of those stout running backs where he's like, just get off me. He just tells them, get off me, and pushes them.
He gives me a vibe of like Maurice Jones-Drew.
Yeah, I see.
You know what I mean?
I can definitely see that.
He's very calm, cool, collected, and patient. But as soon as he gets ready to tuck and make contact, you know it. Or when he's going to move someone out of their shoes, he's moving 2 to 3 people with one move. So it's really exciting to watch Jalen Warren, but it's very upsetting to me that they only put him in when for a majority of his time has been garbage time. When we're down by 2-3 possessions and it's been Najee Harris all game who can't get anything going. If you see that happening, you have to put him in earlier. He can't just be a garbage minute rookie. It doesn't mean that Najee Harris is I don't want people to start calling Najee Harris a bust because I still think the kid's special.
No, I think so too. Yeah.
The kid's definitely a baller, but he's just not having a good year coming off of a foot injury, this, that, the third. Let Jalen Warren run. Let him do his thing. He's clearly got something to show, got something to prove. Well, improve it. We have nothing to lose this year. We have nothing to lose. So the year for experimenting is this year. This is the year. If we're going to not make the playoffs and we're going to be looking at a lottery pick, experiment. Find the situation that works under the play schemes that we have. And then go into the draft. If we could score a lottery pick right now, I think we're projected at the number 6 pick. Again, not looking forward to next season, but, looking at it realistically as to what is on the table right now. If we could score a secondary cornerback or get a blindside tackle in the draft. And then, again, hope to God that everyone stays healthy and then pick in peace and move forward from there. Mm-hmm. That's longevity. Win now, you need to look at the best players that you have and put them on the field to win. And right now, as it stands, Jalen Warren is having a better season than Najee Harris.
Yeah, and it's they definitely need to incorporate more of him in your offense. I completely agree with you. But before I go on about the Steelers, isn't there someone coming back this week?
Yes.
Who?
My friend, this is the return of TJ Watt.
The TJ Watt?
Yes. As he was practicing in full pads this week, the kid is still an animal. I didn't realize, I was reading this, I didn't realize that during the offseason, he also fractured his arm. So he was playing with a fractured arm before he strained his pectoral muscle.
But yeah, he still was an animal game one.
He's still an animal game one. So to talk about resilience when it comes to injury, that man is a machine.
I was going to say the Steelers definitely need him coming back.
For sure.
They need all the help they can get right now. So, hey, it is great to have TJ Watt come back, especially for this game coming after the bye. But I do want to say this about the Steelers is that, okay, the biggest problem I see is your offensive line. And so, like you said before, it's like you need a blindside tackle. You need a blindside tackle. You need a left guard, a center, a right guard. You need a lot of offensive linemen to help you because the reason that you also can't Najee Harris is not having that good of a year is because there's really no room for him to run. There's no holes created by that offensive line to run, and it doesn't help that, yes, Matt Canada, his lack of his very basic and boring play calling does not help. It doesn't benefit the Steelers. It doesn't benefit the Steelers at all. But I think he's more of a symptom of the problem than the problem itself. He's definitely not helping you guys win. I'm not
saying he's the only problem. He's one of the main roots.
Yeah,
because he's not helping a young team progress.
Mm-hmm.
He's keeping them conservative,
mm-hmm.
which is it's their detriment because of just how talented we have of an offensive core. We have a lot of talent on our offense.
Now let me ask you this: was Matt Canada on the team last year?
Yes, he was.
He was.
It's the same exact playbook as last year.
Exactly.
So look at what it was. It was 30 to 40 short passes, no running.
And the only running that you were able to do was sustained because Najee, he had his rookie year and he was phenomenal. But the offensive line did not get any better. And in fact, it got even worse from last year to this year.
Only due to injury did we get worse. We regressed due to injury. But again, last year it was 7 sophomores.
It was, but
the entire line was sophomores.
But it sucks because of your poor offensive line play. It's limited your offense's capabilities
for sure
for what it is. And now I definitely want to see taking away Chase Claypool and for him to go to the Bears now. I want to see. That offense must be so limited now because you take away a dynamic wide receiver who mostly when I saw the Steelers, he was either on the outside on going for one-on-one coverage or he was utilized in a lot of sweeps.
Right.
And I think that, okay, you take away, say, just the sweeps. You take away just the sweeps. Your offense is still so limited down the field, and it's just not – I don't know. It's going to be hard because – for this matchup in particular against the Saints, as poorly as the Saints played against the Ravens this past week, that defense is still good. That's still a really good defense by the Saints, and they can Cam Jordan.
He can get after.
He's
still one of the most slept-on linebackers.
He's one of the most underrated defensive linemen there is, and he's going to have a field day on Kenny Pickett. He's going to have an absolute field day on Kenny Pickett because he's at least going to get one. I can at least see him get his one, but
I can't see him getting more than 2, though. That's the thing.
No, I can't see him getting more than 2, but they won't need to because they still have some pretty good. I got to say, Demario Davis. Shout out to Demario Davis. He looked good on Monday as well. The Saints. The Saints are marching in, and it seems that they're marching in angry against a Steelers team that is like, okay, guys, we're trying to get our footing here.
Well, yeah, yes and no when it comes to the Steelers. We have nothing to lose, but you can never sell them short because of who we are as a culture. The culture of this Pittsburgh Steelers is we are going to fight no matter who the hell is on the field. It is what we may lose and we may lose bad, but we're going to beat you up while we lose. We're going to do as much damage as physically possible if we're going to go down. We don't go down without a fight. We never just roll over and hand anybody a game. You can come in as angry as you want, but at the end of the day, it's also going to come down to coaching.
Oh, absolutely.
And Mike Tomlin is prepared to coach against the Saints. So it's going to be a more interesting game in the terms of coaching. Our offensive line is definitely depleted, so obviously the focal point is going to be Cam Jordan to keep him from having a field day. That man has more than 2 sacks. We are in trouble. We are in absolute trouble. I will not take that away. But if the Steelers somehow figured it out on how to form an offensive line that can win us a game throughout this injury bug that is happening right now on our offensive line, because our line is still very hurt, so we are picking and piecing people where they need to go. It could be the start of something. This is the beginning of a rebuild. It's not like it's been going on for years. Our offensive line has been restructured, I believe, twice in 2 years since Matt Canada. He's not the offensive line coach. That's on the offensive line coach, though. So for the past 2 years, our offensive line has been restructured twice due to injury. The young guys that we have on the line have been getting hurt. That is not good. We need to look at different universities when it comes to scouting for offensive line. But I trust our front office to look at either replacements, look into off-season free agency with offensive linemen, see if we can dip into our pockets a little bit and give people some money to come and play for us. You get 1 or 2, Pro Bowl. You get a Pro Bowl or 2 in the proper positions, you can have a stout offensive line. So
it's going to be definitely a challenge for the Steelers to rebuild. Like you said, it's a rebuilding year. But I will say this though, you guys are 2-6, and you only need to lose 3 more games, and Mike Tomlin loses that record of no season below 500. Right. So, and it's tough because you guys got a tough schedule ahead. We have yet to play both our 2 divisional games, and it's going to be rough for the Steelers. But if that is a sacrifice to make, like a coaching statistic for Mike Tomlin, if that's a sacrifice you're willing to make in order for the team to be right next year, I think that's a sacrifice well worth it.
As one of the smartest coaches to ever do it, I'm sure Mike Tomlin is not looking at his.
He's not looking at stats, but obviously
he's not looking at a legacy accolade.
No, he doesn't care. He doesn't care at all.
If he loses it this year, he still has 15 years. So his legacy is solidified.
Yeah, he's still a Hall of Fame, ballot Hall of Fame coach.
This man can coach literally for the next 10 years and have 10 negative seasons. He is still a Hall of Fame quarterback.
Oh, absolutely.
Because of 15 years positive.
Of excellence.
Correct.
Of just excellence. And
that's clearly just not going to happen, but it could. And that's the argument there.
Mike Tomlin, and you know what? I love Mike Tomlin because we talk about, like, that's a stat like that's very upheld where it's like, oh, Mike Tomlin's got it. Like, but at the end, he doesn't give a shit.
Like, he couldn't care less.
He could not care less about coaching stats. He just wants to win games. And honestly, you just, at the end of the day, you just keep it simple. It's like, look, we are here to win.
Right.
That's it.
He's willing to make sacrifices that most coaches are not. He's dropped 3 number 1 receivers in 4 years. Antonio Brown, Chase Claypool, and Deontay Johnson. He's now down to a number 2 because George Pickens is now the number 1.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So he's dropped people that are needed to go. He's not helping us win. Gotta go. Hard decisions. You don't want to get rid of a Chase Claypool, but if he's not helping us win games, he's gotta go.
He's gotta go.
It's just the way it is.
So hey, Steelers this year, there's not much to look forward to. I mean, there's a couple games, but hey, next year, you just got to make the right moves in March and April, and then you'll be right back in the mix come next September.
Yeah, I have confidence going into this week.
Okay, and one last thing, Mike Tomlin knows how to coach against Andy Dalton.
Always. That goes without saying.
So with that being said, that's the Saints and the Steelers this upcoming week. But let's move on to 2 teams that are in real desperation that need to make a lot of offseason moves, and that's the Colts and the Raiders. Oh, man, these guys are – it's rough. It's rough sledding for both of these teams. But, Chris Palmer, start off. Tell me, who needs to make the most moves in this upcoming offseason?
The Colts.
The Colts?
Without a doubt, the Colts. The Raiders, both teams, first of all, I want this to be very clear. Both teams did a complete 180 as to what happened last year. The Colts were scary. The Raiders, last year they looked like they could go to the AFC Championship. This year they'll be lucky to hit the playoffs. They'll be lucky if they make the playoffs this year. It is ugly on both sides. But I say the Colts is because they already have a great piece in Jonathan Taylor. I like Jonathan Taylor.
I like him too, but man, he's just not.
What did we just say about the Steelers?
Their offensive
Their
line.
offensive line.
Yeah, but is it their offensive line?
Yes.
Is it? Because they still have some good players for their line. I think
But they're not playing as the caliber should be. Same thing with the Raiders, where they're not playing to the level that they're supposed to be.
Yeah, I think to your point, the Colts. Yes, it is probably a matter of personnel for the Colts. I think for the Raiders, it's a matter of schematics. I think they're just not utilizing their players effectively as they should. Whereas the Colts now, they just don't have the personnel to compete against all the better teams in the league.
Mm-hmm.
I want to just give some context real quick. So the Colts, as you mentioned earlier at the top of the show, the Colts actually fired their head coach Frank Reich at the end of this Patriots loss.
Mm-hmm.
They absolutely got obliterated by the Patriots, and we knew the Pats would win, but
not like that
in a dominating fashion. Matt Judon, shout out to Matt Judon, he looks absolutely phenomenal. But the Colts, and as you also proclaimed at the top of the hour, they hired an interim head coach, Jeff Saturday, who was a former Pro Bowl Hall of Fame center for the Colts under the Peyton Manning era. Now, he has no head coaching experience prior to this. He was actually a sports broadcaster since retirement. And
he's one of my least favorite broadcasters.
Honestly,
he makes no sense to me.
He seems like a good guy, but honestly, there's a lot more. There are better commentators out there, but nevertheless, both of these teams are really struggling, and I think for the Colts, it starts from the top down. It starts from the owner, Jim Irsay,
Mm-hmm.
and Chris Ballard. I think that their philosophy, ever since the retirement of Andrew Luck, has been to reload, but they're at the point where they need to rebuild.
Mm-hmm.
And they just need to accept that, because for the past, 5 seasons since Andrew Luck's retirement, 5 or 6 seasons, they've had different starting quarterbacks for every season.
Yep.
And like this year was Matt Ryan. Now it's Sam Ellinger because Matt Ryan sucks this year.
But Matt Ryan's aged.
The year prior, it was Carson Wentz. Then it was
Phillip
Rivers. Then it was Jacoby Brissett. So
they've been all over the place.
They have been so all over the place that, look, you just gotta keep keep the players that you want to keep as your core. I think for the Colts, honestly, you know what they should do, and it might be hard, but they gotta move off Shaq Leonard. And they got to move off some of their players on their defense. They got to restructure their defense, their offensive line, and I don't even know what the fuck their receiving core is. It seems to be just Michael Pittman, and that's it.
Yeah. See, it's funny that we talk about them having to move off of Shaq Leonard, because we both thought that was going to be a crazy move when he went there. You know, again, the projections for what the Colts should have been this year and what they're playing is not what it's supposed to be. Same thing on the Raiders on the other side. When Davante Adams was going to the Raiders, we were like, holy shit, that's going to be such a great piece. But now it's become a point of desperation where they have to get it to him or they aren't moving the ball.
Yeah, I think, you know, what's crazy too is like for the Colts is like they just don't have the personnel. But it boggles my mind that the Raiders, they have the talent. They have the personnel.
But
they have the personnel to compete, but they are just like so lost when it comes to gameplay and just how to play the game of football for 4 quarters is ridiculous, because they are a great first half team.
Yeah.
But they are absolute dog shit in the second half. And I like looking back at most of their losses, it has come from the second half. The Cardinals, the Chiefs. Like this game was, the Jags last week against the Jags. Yeah. They blew a 17-point lead, and it's like, okay, you're clearly. I will just say that Josh McDaniels is not the head coach.
No, he's not the guy.
He is the head coach, but he is not the head coach the Raiders need.
No, it's crazy to me that John Gruden was fucking bought into so immediately. Can you believe that shit? That John Gruden was the one that fucking got them together, and they were like, "We're gonna fucking win some games." and then and then he's gone, and then McDaniels comes in, and it's like, you're an asshole.
Now remember, Josh
Wow.
McDaniels is the same coach that went to Denver and drafted Tim Tebow.
I didn't know that.
Yes. Yes.
Oh my god.
Yes. He was
Get him out of here.
He was a part of that team.
Get him out. Get him out of here.
Now, I will say this though, looking back on history, those Broncos teams with Tebow, they were so lucky in a lot of those games.
Were loaded.
No, they were loaded with offensive talent, but they just did not know how to use them. And then you have John Fox come in the next year with Peyton Manning, and then boom, you have the best offense in the league. That was when Peyton Manning came in and
That's when he threw for 50+ touchdowns. Right?
Yeah, or it might have been the year following, but it was it was that second
was the
year.
51 touchdown season.
No, he had 40, but that second year that they were there, that was when he had 56.
Okay.
Because that first year was the year that the Ravens went to the Super Bowl in 2012,
and the second year was when they went.
And yeah,
okay, you're right.
Yeah. So with that being said, getting back to the Raiders today, they have that talent. We know what Devontae Adams can do. We know what Darren Waller can do. Granted, he's hurt. We know what Josh Jacobs could do. Hell, we even know what Derek Carr could do. We saw his best year last year, and he went toe to toe with Justin Herbert last year, the game week 18 of the season, and out-dueled the young gun, and did it in spectacular fashion.
Yeah,
and the Raiders are struggling not because of a lack of talent, but because of just poor coaching.
Poor coaching.
And now the Colts, you look at the Colts, they don't even have a coach anymore.
Right, they have a center coming in. He has zero experience as a coach. My question is, how the hell is he even a candidate for coaching? How is that a thing? You have not a single thing on your resume that says I can coach a game of football. You have no idea what goes into coaching a team. You have no idea.
It's painful, but I hope that. Oh, and also keep in mind, Derek Carr, his contract is up at the end of this year, so the Raiders may need to rebuild as well. And honestly, I hope not.
I hope they wouldn't get rid of him. That would be so stupid.
Yeah, but we'll see. Both of these teams need to really. Their improvements start with their general manager and their owner.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Those need to be the ones that look at their team and look at themselves in the mirror and say, okay, what we've been doing has not been working. We need to do something different.
Yeah,
and so
on the Colts side, this ain't it.
This ain't it either. And for the Raiders side, Josh McDaniels, he ain't it.
He ain't it. This game is going to be very, very ugly.
This is going to be a very ugly game. But let's move on to, I don't know, this game might be a little ugly one too. The Arizona Cardinals and the Los Angeles Rams. Oh, man. From one uglies to another uglies, but this is divisional uglies.
Yeah, so anything
it's more special.
Happen. Anything can happen in this game because it's a divisional game.
It's close to the heart.
But these are, again, both teams that did complete and utter 180s. As for what they were last year, the Cardinals seem to have Kyler Murray had a breakout year last year. Last year, he played absolutely out of his mind. The Rams, obviously they won the Super Bowl last year. Coming into this year, again, both teams look like they won't even make the playoffs. It's scary what's happening on the Cardinals. Again, looking in on the line on both sides, they have no push. They have no push on the offensive line, so James Conner is stuck in the backfield. Kyler Murray has no pocket to protect him, so he's always scrambling. And then on the defensive side, they're relying solely on their secondary to make a stop inside the 10-yard line, inside the 10 yards to go line. But you're giving no pass rush. So how can you expect the pass to even be thrown in that area when you're not even putting a sensible form of freaking pressure? The issues in the Cardinals, man. I don't like what I see.
I don't like what I see either. The Cardinals, they're losing because of the trenches. Like you said, their offensive line and their defensive line is definitely their worst, their biggest weakness on both sides of the ball. to your point earlier, like, they can't protect Kyler Murray. That's why he has to scramble so far. He's got 359 rushing yards this year. I mean, granted, most that's probably scramble yards.
Yeah,
that's probably all just because of he's just moving his feet so quickly because he has to just evade the pressure. But I mean, he is throwing the ball well when he has time, and D-Hop is still a great addition to the Cardinals. But without D-Hop, do they even have a chance in games? I feel like the relationship between Kyler Murray and D-Hop is what's keeping them in the game. And I will say this though: last year they really utilized James Conner effectively. They're not utilizing him so much this year. They're splitting carries between him and Benjamin, and but I don't know. I want to see more of a complete run game for the Cardinals, because that's going to make it easier for Kyler Murray to pass the ball.
100%.
And like we said before, with the Bills and with the Steelers, and like the old cliche, the quarterback's best friend is a good running game.
Yeah, but the running game's worst enemy, like we've been talking about, now we're going into our third team, Steelers, Colts, Cardinals, offensive line. The offensive line is the pinnacle point of success on the offense.
Yep.
You can have this year in particular goes to show you can have the most talent as ever on your team. You can't get the ball down the field in a running back's hands, you will not win games. Look at the Raiders. Look at the talent that they have going across the board. They have Devontae Adams. They have Hunter Renfrow. They have Darren Waller. They have Josh Jacobs. They have a shit offensive line. That they can't move the ball with Josh Jacobs, so they have to force the ball in the air down the field. And because Darren Waller is hurt, Hunter Renfrow has to pick up the slack as a tight end, which is very hard to do unless you're really a top-notch elite tight end in the league, which he's good, not great. He needs to be that number 3. He can't be a number 2. And so you're forcing the ball to Devontae Adams. He is a Hall of Fame future wide receiver. I would call him a Hall of Fame wide receiver. Every team knows that. So now you put it down to one receiver on the field, you can put 2-3 people on him. And that's what we see. Mm-hmm. That 2-3 people on Devontae Adams, and he's going to get his sometimes. But you're not using your players, to your point, to your full capabilities. Like that Colts team or that Broncos team with Tim Tebow. So
I want to just say this. So with the Raiders, we see a team with offensive talent in their weapons, but because of their poor offensive line, their offense is not being used to its full capabilities.
Correct.
And it's hurting them to win games. That same can be said about the Cardinals.
Yep.
And the same can be said about the Rams as well.
100%.
And so this is a common pattern in the teams that are struggling right now. It doesn't matter how talented they are with their weapons, because again, like Devontae Adams, DeAndre Hopkins, Cooper Kupp, you can have all these stellar wide receivers, like Hall of Fame caliber, each one of them Hall of Fame caliber wide receivers. And you have quarterbacks that have rapport with these wide receivers. But you can't – but that's all your offense is because anything outside of that is not possible because of your poor offensive line play. You don't have – if you're being pressured by the opponent and you don't have time to look at your second and third progressions. You don't have those running holes that are able to create a running game for your team. And we're seeing a pattern with all these teams. If there's a theme to this episode in particular, it's offensive line play.
Yeah.
I didn't think that that's where we'd be going, but that seems to be that seems to be. But this is what we're seeing. This is what we're seeing in the teams that are struggling.
Yeah.
And the teams that are struggling to develop a running game is that that's that's a fatal flaw for even the best of teams, even for the Bills. Like if you don't have a run game, like it's hard to win games. It's hard to take that pressure off your quarterback. And the Rams, their offensive line is pretty poor. I will say, like, ever since the Super Bowl, like, this is not the same team as it was last year, which is a shame because statistically the defense is a top 5 defense.
For sure, their defense is a top 5 defense, but the retiring of their veteran,
Andrew Whitworth. Yep,
that's huge. You're never going to fill that hole.
Oh no,
sorry, he's a Hall of Fame lineman. You are not going to fill that hole. It is going to be years. You know, it's like in the same vein with the Steelers. You're not going to be able to replace Marquise Pouncey. You're not going to replace him.
Yeah.
You know, so you got to find and you got to adapt. And a lot of these teams are struggling with adapting to change in their offensive lines. You know, these teams, but personally, the Rams' offensive line is better than the Cardinals' defensive line. They get just that much more push to get down the field.
I disagree because I just want to bring up this one example that you and I were talking about. Last week against the Bucs, the Rams stopped the Bucs on the goal line. They needed a first down to win the game. They could not get any push. When they needed the game, when the game rests on the strength and the push of the offensive line, it wasn't there.
You see, but that one you could almost chalk up to at the end of the game, your stars need to make a play. On the Bucs, who was one of their biggest stars?
On defense?
Yeah.
Oh, Vita Vea.
Vita Vea.
Yeah.
So with a tired offensive line and you have a superstar D tackle in Vita Vea, you can almost anticipate not a lot of push coming out of that offensive line. So on the side of the Cardinals, they have maybe J.J. Watt. If he's not going to sit out from being hurt again, I haven't been following him, but
he's always hurt.
He's always hurt. Yeah. This is probably going to be one of his last seasons. You know, when he's on the field, he's in the same vein as Christian McCaffrey when it comes to athlete. When he's on the field, he's one of the best people on the field. He is not on the field enough to be a factor.
Mm-hmm.
So you really can't even factor him in anymore. And the fact that J.J. Watt is like that, it's unfortunate, especially for the Cardinals. You know, you picked him up and he came like a bat out of hell ready to play, but his body can't handle it. So in terms of push, the Rams can do it just that much more because of a lack of a star when it comes to that defensive line.
It's going to be tough, but this game, I think you and I can both agree, like this game is going to be won and lost in the trenches.
Oh, without a doubt. It's just going to be that little bit of push that's going to get you over and into the end zone. But if it becomes a stalemate down front, it's just going to be a one-possession, really ugly game with turnovers.
Yeah, this is going to be a very close game and an important game for both of these teams. But let's move on to the Sunday night primetime game. Two teams that actually have some pretty good offensive lines.
I was just thinking the same thing.
Yeah, the Chargers and the 49ers. The Battle of Cali.
Yeah.
So this is we talked for the past couple times about bad offensive line play. Now let's talk the flip side. When you have great offensive line play, it opens up so much of your offensive playbook that you can utilize all your stars to their fullest capability. It's like just last week, you have a star running back for the Chargers in Austin Eckler, who had a receiving touchdown and a rushing touchdown, and he just took over the game. Mm-hmm. He just completely took over the game. That offensive line opened up and held their ground against that Atlanta defense, and they gave Justin Herbert time. I'm also liking that he's staying within the pocket. He's going through his reads. And on the mirror side of that, Jimmy Garoppolo, he's just as capable of standing in the pocket, going through his reads, going down each one. Going going into this game, I believe Debo was a full participant in practice as of today.
Okay.
So he might be back for this upcoming game, but we'll probably know come Friday or Saturday. As of this recording, we can't say for sure, but if he is back for the 49ers, woo, he's going to make Debo in primetime, baby. Debo in primetime.
Crazy to me. Yeah, no, I love these two teams against each other. I feel like this is almost like a mirror match for teams when it comes to versatility on the roster. You know, you look at San Francisco, they are one of the single most versatile teams positionally. You know, you have multiple players that can play multiple positions on the offense.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't really know what you're getting yourself into. Both of these offensive lines are top 10 offensive lines to me.
Oh, absolutely.
You know,
yeah.
So
I think the Chargers are just coming in at 10. I think San Fran ranks between like 7 and 5, somewhere around there.
So, but on the flip side, on that Chargers defense, you have got one of the single best defensemen in the league, Khalil Mack. We watching last week when he did something that he's becoming very known for is stand-up rip strip. Just going in, ripping the ball out, and taking it and running where he just says, gimme. So you have to look at the running scheme of the 49ers and you have to tell them, you better hang on to that ball. You know, you have to hang on to the ball, and if you don't, it's going to be a rough day. But I love this game. This game could also rival the Vikings-Bills for game of the week.
I think there's going to be a reason this game's going to be in prime time.
Yeah.
I
can see some fireworks here.
I think, pun intended, this game is going to be electrifying.
This game is 100% going to be electric. You know, Austin Eckler is definitely going to get after it again. And, you know, Christian McCaffrey. Funny enough, we were just talking about him. He is healthy, and he is the healthiest I think we've ever seen him.
Yeah. And now he's in an offense that utilizes the running game and is capable of utilizing the run game because of their good offensive line play. Yes, Trent Williams was the best left tackle in the league, and he's going to be – I believe he's still injured. But they're still more than capable of creating holes for the running game.
Yes.
Because it doesn't seem to matter who the offensive line is or who the running back is for the 49ers. They know what they are, and they know they're a running team. And they know that against anyone, against even the best defenses, they're going to run for at least 100 yards.
Yeah. Easily.
And it's going to be between 3, 4, sometimes 5 running backs. And, hell, Debo will get some. Yep. McCaffrey will get some. I would just expect a package where maybe Christian McCaffrey throws to Debo.
Well, they have that. They have a whole package where McCaffrey, it's pretty much like their Wildcat package, but people forget that Christian McCaffrey played quarterback in high school.
Exactly.
So the kid can throw the ball. Brandon Ayuk can throw the ball. Everyone can throw the ball in San Francisco. That's what's crazy to me, too.
It's crazy.
Again, the versatility that comes out of San Francisco is on a different level. It's something that it's almost unprecedented. I think I said it earlier this year. Maybe it was still during the offseason. We're more so moving away from the true position players, and it's becoming playmakers.
Yep.
You know, it's kind of the same thing that happened in basketball, where it went from positional players, center, guard, forward, and now it's wings, big men, and guards, and that's it. You know, You play every piece of the ball you can. It's kind of starting to happen here, and we're seeing it almost like in a pioneer state in San Francisco, where everyone is doing something other than what they're known for. You know, you look at it in another sense. You look at it in Dallas with Micah Parsons, where he's a middle linebacker, but he gets down. He can play D tackle. He can play outside linebacker. He can play up in coverage too as a cornerback. He's fast.
Cordell Patterson
playing just about every position on the offensive front as well.
Yep.
So this versatility is going to sweep the league very soon, and I think the 49ers are a couple of steps ahead.
That is an excellent point there. Hey, and that's definitely the best word to describe the 49ers is versatile.
They're the most versatile team in the league, and it's not even close.
It's the Chargers are going to have their hands full.
Yeah, but I like the Chargers head coach. he's smart enough to really. I think he's.
Brandon Staley.
Yes, this is going to be a great chess match between Kyle Shanahan and Brandon Staley.
It's going to be a great chess match, and I think this is going to be a really close game, a really just exciting game to watch because there's going to be at least 3 moments in the game we're just going to say, "Wow."
There's going to be a lot more than that. I feel this game,
at least 3, but
this
there's
game
just going to be wow.
This game is going to be a 60-minute highlight reel. This is just going to be banger after banger after banger after banger on offense, and then you're just going to start seeing the physicality come out on both of these defenses. Gotta remember, it's the Bosa brothers fighting each other this week.
That is right. That is right.
Both brothers play each other this week, so there's going to be some on-the-field
rivalry.
some sibling rivalries going on. This game is going to be very, very exciting.
This is going to be a fantastic game to watch. But any final thoughts on this one?
Great game to close out the week, I think. This is going to be this great game. I can't wait.
Phenomenal game. So Let's get ready. Let's make our picks for this upcoming week. So you ready to make some picks?
Yeah. First game that we're going to – this Thursday, Atlanta and Carolina.
In Carolina. I'm going to go with Hotlanta. I just like what I've been seeing from them.
Yeah, I'm going to have to agree with you that Atlanta's going to come out and they're just going to roll the deflated Carolina Panthers.
Yeah.
They're just completely deflated.
Well, remember, this game before went to when they played each other in Atlanta just 2 weeks ago. It was 37-34. So it might be a high-scoring game. I doubt it. I think we'll probably get a little something like 28-24, something like that. Mm-hmm. But divisional games, anything can happen.
Anything can happen. We're going to move on to the first ever Germany game.
Yeah.
Seattle versus Tampa.
Yeah, the first ever NFL game played in Germany. Oh, man. Give me Seattle.
Yeah, I'm going to take Seattle. Germany is like the country of Seattle where it's just rainy, so that they're more prepared for geography-wise. And, I have no inclination to vote for Tom Brady. He's playing like shit.
I want the Germans to actually see Tom Brady get his ass beat.
Yes. Going to move on to Minnesota and Buffalo.
Now, one thing we also forgot to mention in that game is Stephon Diggs. This is his first time playing against the Vikings.
Oh, shit.
So this is actually going to be kind of like a little revenge game for Stephon Diggs.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Minnesota, actually. I want to take the upset. I don't know. I feel like we just kind of talked ourselves, like at least myself, into it. I'm going to take the Vikings.
You see, I'm going to go with Buffalo. I'm still pretty confident in Buffalo that they're still the better team. But it's not going to be by much, and depending on just how hurt Josh Allen is, it's going to be a much, much harder game. But yeah. I feel like as a unit, Buffalo will be able to come together and go get through that and get the win. Going to move on to Detroit and Chicago.
Give me Chicago, man. Detroit is not a good team on the road, and the Bears are they found their identity. Justin Fields, I want to see him he's been having great games, great consecutive games. I want to see him stack some more great games. I don't care about wins and losses, but I want to see him just stack great performances.
Yes, this is a year for progression with him. But a spark happened. Now let's see if it can turn into a flame. I want to take Chicago on this. Detroit, they are entertaining. They're not playing well. Chicago is entertaining, and they're starting to play well. So this is going to be a Chicago win. Moving on to Jacksonville and Kansas City.
Kansas City, baby.
Yeah. Kansas City won't be stopped here. This is going to be kind of a roll. Cleveland and Miami.
Miami, man. I do think Cleveland will keep it a little closer than expected. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, I believe they're going to be big problems for Miami to stop. But I think Miami is they're just a really great team, and they just seem like a playoff caliber team. And the Browns seem like they're a team that they're trying to make it to the playoffs. Yeah. But I'll take Miami to win.
I'm going to take Miami with you. This is one of those games where it's like a team playing not to lose versus a team that's playing to win.
Mm-hmm.
Cleveland's playing not to lose. They're playing not to be hurt. Miami's playing for a division. They're playing especially now with the detriment of Josh Allen, he goes down, that division's wide open. So Miami has a lot more to gain. Cleveland has a lot less to lose. But Miami is the better team. But Cleveland's that thorn in your side where they stick in deep enough, they can do a lot of damage.
Absolutely.
That one's going to be interesting. Houston and the Giants.
Giants coming off their bye week. I'm going to take the Giants. They just need to continue what they've been doing this whole year. Just give a steady diet to Saquon, play good defense. You'll win games.
Yeah, I can't help but agree with you there. The Giants should definitely come out with this win. But I do want to keep an eye on Houston. That first half was very interesting last week.
Yes, against the Eagles.
Yes. So if that team comes out for 4 quarters, the Giants could have some problems.
I think this will be a close game.
It may be a lot closer than people anticipate, that's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to New Orleans and Pittsburgh. You know my pick. I'm going to go with Pittsburgh on this one, coming out the gate.
You know what? I'll go with Pittsburgh with you. Again, maybe I shouldn't, but I will. But I trust Mike Tomlin. Home underdog. I like, and coming off a bye, I have all the reason to put my trust in Mike Tomlin. So let's hope it's not misplaced trust.
Moving on to Denver and Tennessee.
I'll take Tennessee all day, baby. King Henry will not be denied. Granted, that Denver defense is ranked number 3rd in the league, but King Henry, he will not be denied.
No, I'm right with you with Tennessee. I have no reason to go for Denver. Denver has been playing pretty much with their helmets on backwards this year. Tennessee they had off to a slow start, but Derrick Henry, he just won't be stopped. So then Tennessee all the way. Indy and Las Vegas.
I promised myself I wouldn't take Vegas, but I will take Vegas because I don't know. Jeff Saturday he's not a head coach; he's a sports broadcaster.
This is 100%.
I'll take the Raiders. I don't want to take the Raiders, but I'll take it because I just think the Colts don't have the personnel and they don't have the coaching.
Yeah, no. This is the only reason why I said last week that I had no reason to vote for Vegas. This week, the only reason to vote for Vegas is because they actually have a head coach. They don't have someone sitting in. But this is still going to be a game of who plays worse, and that's to think about that there's a team going in with an interim head coach who has 0 experience can still put up a matchup against you guys. There's a lot of problems there, mate.
Yeah.
So I expect this to be an extremely low-scoring game. It's going to be almost hurtful to watch, and no one's going to want to watch.
Whoever gets above 15 points wins.
I think even if they get to 10 points, I see like 10-3. I don't see touchdowns being scored this week.
This is going to be ugly.
Dallas and Green Bay.
I'll take Dallas because Green Bay has been very ugly as of late too. You lose to Detroit, and you're just not playing well. And Dallas coming off a bye, and that Dallas defense is for real. Yeah. I'll take Micah Parsons and that defense.
Yeah, once again, we are on the same page. I can't see Green Bay coming out on top on this one. They lost to that Detroit defense, and he threw 3 interceptions against them.
Mm-hmm.
That Dallas defense is leagues ahead of that Detroit defense. What is going to happen? So ugly's coming out of Green Bay. Dallas is going to roll that. Arizona and Los Angeles.
Who you got for this one?
I'm going to go with Arizona. It almost hurts to go for Arizona because, again, both of these teams are just at such a detriment as to how they've been playing for themselves. This is going to be another game of who plays worse, and it's unfortunate to say that.
I'm going to take the Rams. Again, I don't really want to take the Rams, but I just think, again, if I'm going to give an edge to the Rams, I think Sean McVay is better than Cliff Kingsbury.
Okay.
And I think that Rams also have I'll give offense to Arizona, defense to the Rams, coaching to the Rams. I'll take the Rams.
Okay, that's fair. Going into the Battle of LA.
Well, the Battle of Cali, baby.
California,
Cali,
Los
baby.
Angeles, and San Francisco.
Give me San Fran, baby. Coming off that bye. Woo! I'll take it.
You know, I'm gonna go with the Chargers on this one.
Ooh.
I'm gonna have to go with that Chargers defense. Fucking Khalil Mack, man. I want to see him have a great game.
Derwin James too.
Yep. So I think that one's gonna be a very, very fun game to watch. And then finally, last but not least, the Washington Commanders playing Philly.
I actually think this game will be close.
Okay.
Again, another divisional game. And I think, we forget, Ron Rivera is still a head coach in this league, and he's a really good head coach. Washington seems to play better under Taylor Heineke because he's just not giving up the ball. They have some good offensive talent in Terry McLaurin, Jahan Dotson, and Curtis Samuel, along with Antonio Gibson as running back. I think this game is going to be a lot closer than people think. But I will take Philly to ultimately win the game.
Also, to piggyback off your point, I'm pretty sure Chase Young comes back this week, too.
That is going to be huge.
I'm pretty sure he comes back this week. But I can't, with all that being said, I can't see Washington beating Philly.
It's a tall order.
It is the tallest order you can ask for to put that first blemish of the season on an undefeated team.
Yeah.
And I don't know that team is ready for that pressure. So there you have it, guys. There's our picks for the week. Like, comment, subscribe. Let us know if you agree, disagree. First game in Germany this week. It is going to be a lot of fun. If you want to come in for an interview, please send either myself or John Halpin your email, and we will set something up for your team. We will set up a whole interview for you. This is going to be a fun week. I think we're ready.
Oh, this is going to be a great week, brother. I can't wait.
All right, guys.